Imagine standing at the edge of a cliff, the wind clawing at your face, and below you, a vast ocean of voices. They chant in unison, faceless, endless. Every voice says the same thing: stay with us, think like us, believe like us. You take one step back and you're safe, accepted, invisible, absorbed by the comfort of belonging. You take one step forward, and you fall into the terrifying freedom of being alone. This, Nietzsche said, is the moment where most souls turn away. Because to think for yourself is not a polite act of independence. It is an act of violence against the herd. And most people are too weak for violence of that kind. Nietzsche's warning was never simply about weakness in strength or body, but weakness of spirit. A disease that spreads quietly through societies that worship safety over truth. He saw it coming, a world where comfort would be mistaken for meaning, where people would willingly trade their will for a sense of belonging. He called it the morality of the herd, the silent agreement that it's better to live quietly than to live freely. What happens to a world that believes this? It becomes gentle, polite, and spiritually hollow. People learn to speak not what they believe but what is allowed. They mistake obedience for virtue and conformity for goodness. Nietzsche's words echo like a thunderclap through time. He who has a why to live can bear almost anyhow. Friedrich Nietzsche. But what if you never find your why? What if your meaning comes prepackaged, handed down by culture, community, religion, or social approval? Then your life isn't truly yours. You exist not as a creator, but as a reflection, a mirror of the collective. The weak-minded, Nietzsche feared, are not born that way. They are made through education systems that reward obedience, workplaces that punish dissent, and social circles that confuse agreement with friendship. They are told, don't stand out, don't question, don't dream too far beyond the fence. And so, they stop asking what is true, and begin asking what is safe to say. Weakness, in Nietzsche's eyes, was not the absence of strength, but the surrender of will. It is when one's mind becomes domesticated, tamed by approval, softened by fear, lulled by comfort. And here lies the great paradox. The more civilized we become, the more fragile our souls. The more connected, the more dependent. The more we know, the less we think. Look around, the prophecy has come true. We live in an age where opinions are recycled faster than food packaging, where outrage replaces understanding, and where solitude, once the birthplace of genius, is now treated as a disease. We call it mental health, but sometimes it's spiritual starvation, the slow suffocation of individuality beneath the weight of endless noise. To Nietzsche, this was not progress, it was decay. The triumph of the weak over the strong, of comfort over truth. But here is the terrifying question that he leaves us with. If a society protects the weak-minded, nurtures their illusions, and silences the dangerous thinkers, who then will tell us what is real? The herd may be safe, but it is never awake. And those who awaken too soon find themselves surrounded by sleepers who call them mad. This is Nietzsche's warning, not a condemnation, but a mirror. It asks, are you thinking your thoughts, or are they thinking you? Do you speak from conviction, or from the need to be accepted? Would you rather be wrong alone, or right with everyone else? Because somewhere between obedience and rebellion lies the line where the soul either awakens or dies quietly among the herd. Weakness rarely admits that it is weak. It wears a disguise, soft words, moral outrage, and the quiet conviction that it is good. Nietzsche saw it as one of humanity's most elegant lies, the transformation of powerlessness into moral superiority. In his eyes, the weak-minded were not content to live humbly. They needed to believe that their humility made them better than the strong. They built their strength not through courage, but through guilt, by turning the virtues of the powerful into vices, and their own vices into virtues. This inversion of values Nietzsche called slave morality. It was born, he said, from resentment. Not the passing sting of envy, but a slow-burning hatred toward those who dare to rise above the herd. The weak cannot climb the mountain, so they condemn the mountain itself. They cannot conquer fear, so they declare fearlessness immoral. They cannot create beauty, so they preach that all beauty is vanity. And soon enough, The powerless begin to call their weakness kindness, their cowardice compassion, and their dependence community. Thus begins the quiet revolution of mediocrity, a world where excellence must apologize and truth must bow before comfort. Nietzsche did not hate the weak. He pitied them, but even more, he feared their moral cunning. Because once weakness learns to call itself virtue, it becomes untouchable. You can no longer criticize it, because who dares question kindness? You can no longer challenge it, because to do so makes you cruel. And in that inversion, power changes hands. The weak rule not through might, but through guilt. That was Nietzsche's prophecy, and today, it echoes louder than ever. We live in an age where fragility has become sacred, where strength is not admired but feared, as if every act of confidence were secretly an act of violence. We praise vulnerability, but we have forgotten that vulnerability has meaning only when it leads to growth. Instead, we wear it like armor, a badge that demands protection, not transformation. And as the weak demand to be sheltered, the strong are told to shrink, to apologize for their intensity, their ambition, their clarity. To Nietzsche, this was the slow death of humanity's creative spirit, the triumph of comfort over greatness. The surest way to corrupt a youth, Nietzsche wrote, is to instruct him to hold in higher esteem those who think alike than those who think differently. The weak-minded fear difference because difference exposes their smallness. They prefer harmony over truth, equality over excellence, and moral certainty over intellectual struggle. They worship what is safe, even if it is false. And when they cannot rise to meet reality, they drag reality down to meet them. This, Nietzsche warned, is how civilizations rot, not through war or chaos, but through the quiet domestication of the soul. A society obsessed with protection becomes incapable of creation. It replaces strength with safety and greatness with conformity. Every new idea is seen as a threat. Every confident voice a potential oppressor. Every challenge to the collective illusion an act of cruelty. So people learn to whisper, to lower their heads, to censor their hearts before they even speak. They become polite prisoners, decorating their cages with slogans about kindness and progress. Nietzsche called this the revenge of the weak. For centuries, they have learned to rule not by sword, but by shame, to make others feel guilty for their vitality, their independence, their hunger for life. They create moral systems that punish those who dare to live too fully. And so, a new kind of tyranny emerges, not one of force, but of emotion. A tyranny of the gentle. A world where no one bleeds, but no one truly lives. It feels peaceful, but it is the peace of the grave. This is the heart of Nietzsche's warning, that weakness, when disguised as virtue, becomes the most dangerous form of power, because it doesn't seek to dominate you, it seeks to tame you, to make you good, by making you harmless. And if that succeeds, the herd no longer needs chains. It walks willingly into the pasture, singing songs of equality, mistaking submission for peace. There comes a moment, often in silence, often in despair, when the mind realizes that the crowd cannot save it. When the applause fades and the noise of belonging grows hollow, one begins to sense a terrible truth, that comfort is not peace and conformity is not love. This is where Nietzsche begins his rebellion, not against others, but against the self that kneels before them. He believed that the strong spirit is not born in harmony but in rupture, in the shattering of illusions, in the solitude that strips away the masks we wear for acceptance. The weak-minded cling to the herd because they fear that without it, they are nothing. But the strong, they step away precisely to discover what remains when everything false is gone. Nietzsche once said, "One must still have chaos in oneself to be able to give birth to a dancing star." That chaos is not madness. It is the raw energy of becoming, the struggle to shape your own values, to carve meaning out of uncertainty. The weak-minded avoid this storm. They build lives around safety nets, systems of belief, approval, ideology, identity, anything to protect them from the abyss of not knowing who they are. But Nietzsche demanded that we stand before that abyss and stare into it until it stares back. Because somewhere in that confrontation, when all external validation has burned away, the soul is reborn as something fierce, untamed, alive. The herd teaches that happiness is found in belonging. Nietzsche countered, happiness is found in becoming. Not peace but power, not control over others but mastery of oneself. To be strong, he said, is not to conquer the world, but to conquer the temptation to flee from it. Think of the Übermensch not as a godlike figure, but as a symbol of the human being who has outgrown dependency on inherited truths. He is not bound by the morality of the crowd. He invents his own compass, even if it leads him through darkness. He does not seek permission to live as he must. To reach that state requires more than intellect. It demands spiritual courage, the willingness to suffer for authenticity, to be misunderstood, rejected, even hated, and to remain loyal to one's inner fire. For Nietzsche, solitude was not loneliness. It was initiation. It was the crucible where weak minds break and strong souls are born. He knew the price of that solitude, the alienation, the silence, the aching distance from ordinary joy. But he also knew its gift, freedom from imitation, the birth of an unborrowed vision. He warned that the greatest danger to the thinker is not the hostility of others, but the temptation to dilute himself just enough to be accepted. To think boldly, but speak gently. To stand tall, but not too tall. To shine, but not too brightly. That slow compromise, he said, is how the lion becomes a dog. To resist that fate, one must choose a different kind of strength, the kind that thrives on struggle, that finds beauty in resistance. Nietzsche's strong spirit does not ask for an easier world. It asks to grow strong enough to face the world as it is. But here lies the paradox. The very traits that make the strong spirit powerful, independence, depth, intensity, are the same traits that make it isolated. It burns brightly, but burns alone. It sees farther, but stands apart. It becomes a stranger in its own time, admired from afar, but never understood. Yet Nietzsche saw in this loneliness something sacred, because only the one who walks alone can see the horizon for what it truly is, endless, unpromised, and free. The weak-minded follow paths already drawn. The strong carve their own, knowing it may lead to ruin. But Nietzsche would argue, it is better to perish in the pursuit of truth than to survive in the comfort of illusion. And so the warning transforms into a challenge. Will you let your mind be tamed by the comfort of the herd? Or will you walk into the wilderness of thought and become something new? Because the fire that burns alone may consume itself, but in that blaze it illuminates the world that fears the dark. There comes a point in every thinker's rebellion when anger fades, when even defiance feels too small. After the storm of breaking away, after the loneliness of standing apart, a deeper truth begins to surface. That strength is not only about rising above the herd, but also about saying yes to life itself, in all its brutality and beauty. For Nietzsche, this was the ultimate victory of the strong spirit. Not to escape suffering, but to embrace it completely. To look at one's life, every wound, every loss, every humiliation, and whisper, I would live it all again. This was Amor Fati, the love of fate, not passive acceptance, but a passionate affirmation. It means saying yes not only to joy but to sorrow, not only to triumph but to failure, because to reject suffering is to reject the very soil from which meaning grows. Nietzsche wrote, my formula for greatness in a human being is Amor Fati, that one wants nothing to be different, not forward, not backward, not in all eternity. The weak-minded want the world to bend to them. They wish away pain, erase discomfort, and call it progress. But the strong spirit understands that to erase pain is to erase depth. To be human is to suffer, and to transform that suffering into strength is to create something divine. Imagine a blacksmith's forge. The metal does not resent the fire. It becomes itself through the fire. So too must the human soul be tempered, shaped by the very forces it wishes to escape. This is what Nietzsche meant by saying yes to life, not as a naive affirmation, but as an act of radical courage, to look existence in the eye and say, you will not break me, you will make me. In a world obsessed with comfort, this idea sounds cruel. But Nietzsche's love was not for comfort. It was for truth. He believed that life's highest form is not serenity but intensity. a deep, vibrating gratitude for existence even in its darkest hours. Because when one truly accepts fate, fear dissolves. If every experience, every failure, every heartbreak is necessary, then nothing is wasted. Even pain becomes sacred because it belongs to your story, and your story is irreplaceable. The weak-minded see tragedy and ask, "Why me?" The strong spirit whispers, "Because I can bear it." And in that whisper lies a revolution, a new kind of power that no society, no system, no external force can take away. It is the power of affirmation, to look at chaos and call it beautiful, to suffer without bitterness, to lose without despair, to live without apology. This is not a denial of weakness, but its transformation. To love fate is to turn even defeat into art. The weak seek control, the strong seek meaning. The weak escape reality, the strong embrace it, fully, painfully, ecstatically. Nietzsche's warning to the weak-minded was never to shame them, but to awaken them, to show that true strength is not the absence of vulnerability, but the ability to face it without surrender. In his later writings, he imagined the yes-sayer, the one who sings in the face of suffering, who dances upon the ruins of his certainties, who turns even despair into laughter. To him, this was the highest form of freedom, to love life not because it is easy, but because it is necessary. There is a haunting beauty in this vision because it asks for everything. To say yes to life is to say yes to death, to loss, to impermanence. It is to carry one's pain not as a curse, but as a crown. The weak-minded shrink from this burden. They build heavens of illusion to escape it. But the strong spirit bears the sacred weight of existence, and in doing so, becomes luminous. Because to love fate is to love the truth, and the truth, however cruel, is the only thing that can set the soul free. There is a silence that follows the death of belief, a silence so complete it hums. Nietzsche heard it coming long before the rest of the world. He called it the death of God. But it was never just about religion, it was about the collapse of meaning itself. When the old gods fall, when the inherited truths crumble, the weak-minded tremble. Because now, no one tells them what is right, what is sacred, what to live for. The scaffolding of certainty collapses, and they are left naked in the storm of existence. The strong spirit, Nietzsche said, faces this moment without flinching. He stands before the void and says, "If there is no meaning given to me, then I shall create it." But the weak cannot bear that weight. They flee into distraction, ideology, consumption, anything to silence the awful freedom of being responsible for their own soul. This is Nietzsche's final warning, that the death of God is not liberation for everyone. It is a test, a mirror that divides the creators from the clingers, the awake from the asleep. The weak-minded long for new idols. They build them from screens, slogans, and tribes. They kneel before politics, before culture, before digital gods of outrage and validation. They call it progress, but it is only a new form of slavery, belief without transcendence, passion without purpose. Nietzsche saw it with chilling clarity. Once people stop believing in something higher, they don't become free, they become hollow. They no longer live for truth, only for comfort. No longer for creation, only for distraction. Man is a rope stretched between the animal and the overman, a rope over an abyss. Nietzsche wrote in Thus Spoke Zarathustra, that abyss is nihilism, the terror that nothing matters. And most, when they look down into it, turn back toward the herd. But the few, the strong, use the abyss as a mirror. They see in its depth the invitation to rise higher, to become the creators of new values, new meanings, new worlds. Nietzsche believed that humanity's future depended on those few, the ones brave enough to live without certainty, to walk without maps. Because when the gods die, creation begins anew. The world is reborn not through obedience, but through the courage of individuals who refuse to let the void define them. But this creation demands sacrifice. The strong spirit must burn through everything false, every borrowed idea, every comforting lie, until only the naked flame of the self remains. That flame is fragile, but it is also divine. And in that fire, a new kind of being emerges, not saint, not slave, but creator. A human who no longer waits for meaning, but breathes it into the world, who does not pray for purpose, but becomes it. The weak-minded will call him dangerous, arrogant, even mad. And perhaps he is, because madness is what the herd calls individuality when it no longer understands it. But this madness is sacred, the madness of one who dares to love life after truth has crumbled, to dance after the music has stopped, to say yes to the abyss. Nietzsche's vision was never one of despair, though few see it that way. He did not mourn the death of the old gods. He mourned humanity's fear of becoming gods themselves, the fear of carrying the divine burden of creation, the fear of freedom. He knew that most would rather remain weak, safe, obedient, invisible. They would rather sleep through life than risk the agony of awakening. And so he warned them, not with hatred but with grief, because he knew what they were losing. Not comfort, but greatness. Not certainty, but the sacred fire that makes existence radiant. We have reached that age. The noise has grown deafening, yet the silence beneath it is vast. Every screen hums with distraction. Every tribe screams its truth. And yet, in the quiet between, you can feel it. The old gods are gone, and no one knows what comes next. So Nietzsche's warning returns to us, sharper than ever. Do not let your mind be tamed by comfort. Do not mistake belonging for love. Do not trade your chaos for calm, because when the world becomes too polite, too safe, too certain, the soul forgets how to live. Be the rope, not the abyss. Be the fire, not the ash. Be the one who dares to say yes, even when nothing guarantees that it will matter. Because the greatest act of strength is not to conquer others, but to face existence, utterly alone, and still whisper, I choose to live.